On this edition of Southern Newsweek, the government tightens the nation's COVID framework measures. Wanaka's Zoe Sedinsky-Sinnott adds to her medal haul at the Winter Olympics. And the remnants of a 16th century Māori village have been unearthed. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. With new daily COVID-19 cases topping the 1,000 mark, the Prime Minister and Director General of Health recently decided to lift the nation's alert level. From midnight on Wednesday, New Zealand went to level 2 of the red traffic light setting.
A record 981 cases of COVID-19 were reported across New Zealand on Monday. The large number of new infections prompting the Prime Minister and Director General of Health to hold a media briefing late this afternoon.
That is why today I can confirm that New Zealand will move to phase 2 of our Omicron plan from 11:59pm tomorrow, Tuesday, the 15th of February.
At phase 2 of the red light setting, the focus shifts away from intensive contact tracing, with slightly shorter isolation periods of 10 days for positive cases and 7 for close contacts. Also on the Prime Minister's agenda was the anti-mandate protests happening around the nation, but heavily focused on the lawn outside Parliament.
And the fact that it has stepped, in my mind, beyond the protests, given we have seen the ongoing harassment and intimidation of people who are trying to go about their daily lives. So that for me steps beyond protest.
Protesters have also set up a number of tents and a marquee on the lawn in Dunedin's upper octagon, chalking slogans like "End Medical Apartheid." Meanwhile, Year 5 and 6 pupils from Musselburgh School in Dunedin have been identified as close contacts of a local case, and health authorities have asked families to get their children tested. There are still no COVID locations of interest listed in Dunedin, although there are many notified in Queenstown and Central Otago, as cases there continue to rise. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Wanaka residents are celebrating after their Queen of the Slopes, Zoe Sedinsky-Sinnott, twisted and flipped her way to another medal at the Winter Olympics recently. The 20-year-old pulled off a couple of stunning runs in the final of the big air to clinch the silver medal.
Cheering on the success of a local star, Wanaka fans were back at Quadrant Base Camp yesterday afternoon to watch local 20-year-old snowboarder Zoe Sedinsky-Sinnott on the big screen for the big air final. She had already created history a week earlier by winning New Zealand's first ever Winter Olympic Games gold medal with a dazzling display in the women's slopestyle. Now she's added to her tally with a silver in the big air event.
Yeah, the big air final was pretty sick to be a part of, and everyone was pushing everyone, and yeah, pretty stoked to come second, Dexter, Anna and Coco.
Zoe did very well in her first 2 runs, and the crowd held their breath for her third and final run, which unfortunately ended in a crash. Austria's Anna Gasser took the big air gold. However, Zoe's parents couldn't be prouder of their daughter's silver medal winning performance.
She was that close to a gold medal, but that is by no means can you take that away from Anna Gasser. I mean, she's an outstanding performer. Zoe did her best on the day, and you know what? We've got to be proud. She's come home with another medal.
Hometown fans, including double Olympic free skier Janina Kuzma, were also very proud.
I think Zoe was planning to come home with some medals from this Olympic cycle. So yeah, go Zoe. We're super proud of her, and can't wait to see what she does next in the future.
Zoe's mother Robin says they've always been supportive of their daughter achieving her best in snowboarding.
You know, through the years, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. wake-ups, do whatever you can for your kids.
And she's impressed with the camaraderie shown among competitors.
Women snowboarding, the progression is they all support one another. It actually...
No one wants to see anyone fall.
And Zoe acknowledged her supporters back home.
Thank you so much. It's been a crazy journey. There's been ups and downs, but couldn't have done it without you. And yeah, all the support coming in from everywhere I'm so grateful.
Snow sport fans will be back on Thursday night to watch another Wanaka star, Nico Porteous, in the freestyle halfpipe. He'll be aiming to better his bronze medal from the 2016 Winter Olympics. In Wanaka, the South Today.
The global COVID-19 pandemic has created an ever-changing situation around the world and increased the uncertainty and anxiety for many people. With COVID again circulating in the community in the south, one clinical psychologist is encouraging people to keep things in perspective.
COVID-19 has returned to the south with new community cases in both Queenstown and Dunedin. Almost 2 years since the COVID-19 pandemic created the first nationwide lockdown. Henk van Bilsen, consultant with the Invercargill Community Mental Health Team, says from day one some people coped with the pandemic better than others.
Now, in the beginning, I think people were worrying about, oh my God, if one of my family or I get COVID, I might die.
Van Bilsen specialises in cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT. That's a form of psychological treatment demonstrated to be effective for a range of problems, including depression and anxiety disorders. He says protesters who set up camp on Parliament's grounds this week feel like they're claiming a victim status.
Vividly in front of Parliament in the last couple of days, who get angry because they feel that something is done to them and that is so unjustified.
He recalls when seatbelts became mandatory in Holland when he was growing up, which he says many people saw as the government imposing on their freedom.
And there were people saying, seatbelts are dangerous, they strangle you. And a lot of people you talk to, they had heard of someone who had an accident in a seatbelt and their head had been chopped off. That's how dangerous they were.
Information about COVID-19 has been flooding the nation's media since the early days, from the daily Jacinda and Ashley COVID updates to the mass media health campaigns. However, Van Bilsen doesn't believe the government is using fear as a tactic to gain societal compliance.
Well, if they're doing it, they're doing a bloody lousy job.
He acknowledges COVID has killed significant numbers of people around the world, but believes we should put it into perspective, with things like drunk driving and obesity still killing more people annually.
In New Zealand, about 3,500 people die as a result of obesity. If you compare that to COVID, it's small.
He doesn't blame the media, but says if people are feeling swamped by news about COVID, it can be good to give themselves a break from it all, to help improve their mental health. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A dig by archaeology students from Otago University has uncovered the remains of a Maori village dating back to the early 1500s. It's believed the early 16th century settlement near Doctors Point was once occupied by around 50 people, shortly after Moa went extinct.
Uncovering early Maori history. These undergraduate archaeology students from the University of Otago are examining a small Maori village at Dunedin's Doctors Point, thought to date back to the early 1500s. That's less than 200 years after the first Polynesians made landfall in Aotearoa. Professor Richard Walter says the rubbish pits, called middens, that the students are uncovering can show what the locals were eating back then.
Represents a period of major transition. The large resources, the moa, the seal, the sea mammals, they've all gone. So people are learning to really adapt to the marine conditions, the coastal conditions, the marine environment of New Zealand in a new way.
Also part of the project is Mauraka Edwards, who counts himself as a descendant of the tangata whenua who lived in the area.
At this point now, just wanting to come down and actually see the workings as they are for myself, and also to offer any support that Richard and his team need, so on a cultural basis. So upholding the mana of our people, and it's a really an amazing opportunity for myself as well.
Professor Walter says while the fish hooks and stone tools the students uncover will be examined further at the university, they won't end up stored away in some dusty cupboard.
The artefacts that come off the site are taken back to the University of Otago under our permits, and they eventually get returned to iwi or to museums, but under a negotiation between iwi and the Crown.
He says that while the nearby sea has washed away some of the 500-year-old site, a large portion has remained intact. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, Oamaru's last surviving Dominican nun prepares to leave the district. And we catch up with a group of Selwyn farmers taking an old school approach. Welcome back. Oamaru's last surviving Dominican nun is leaving the district to be nearer other sisters in Dunedin. But before Sister Mary Horn leaves North Otago, she's preparing to sell some of the artwork she's created over 40 years.
Sister Mary Horn has led a full life. She became a Dominican nun at 20 and then at age 57 answered a call from God to become an artist. She says many people unfamiliar with her works often expect her art to have a strong religious theme, but she says it's much more subtle and abstract. However, she remains adamant her creations do have a religious message.
I have OP at the end of my name, which is Order of Preachers. And my artwork is the way in which I actually preach. I don't stand up in the pulpit and preach, but my art seems to preach.
It's 40 years since Sister Mary first attended a drawing class and started making art. Her works have included portraits, such as this one of her parents, and have been exhibited in prestigious galleries across the region.
The landscape definitely influences my art. And the people of North Otago influence my art. So I did a series of wise women, and they're all based on North Otago women. And that was a lovely exhibition we had at the Forrester Gallery.
But now it's time for her to leave the Waitaki, after finding her current Tesha Maker's home, south of Oamaru, increasingly difficult to look after. She'll be the last of 140 years of Dominican nuns who've served the Catholic community in North Otago.
I'm the last sister living in Oamaru, and when I get to Dunedin I'll be just round the corner from other sisters, which will be very nice.
Over the years, Sister Mary's created thousands of artworks, and she's aiming to sell as many as she can before moving. An exhibition of her life's work will open this Saturday at the Quadrant Gallery in Oamaru's Harbour Street. In Oamaru, the South today.
For farmers, there's a range of technologies on offer today to help save time and reduce costs. But there's still something to be said for the older tools in the sheds. That's the case for a group of Selwyn district oat farmers who still cut their crops using vintage machinery developed more than 100 years ago.
Still going strong after many hard years of use. While the farming world has been embracing new technology, many farmers in the Selwyn district still like to hang on to all those old bits and bobs they know work and do the job right. For retired farmer Paul McCartan, the old binders his father used to cut oats and make chaff are just as important today as they were back in the day.
Today they've never replaced a binder. There's not one machine out here at the moment can do this job. And to do it properly you've got to put it into sheave and stook it like it's done out there, and then stack it and then put it through the chaff cutter.
He says nothing beats a day's work on a binder that's probably older than he is.
There's nothing nicer to see the sheave going out the side, tied, and yeah.
A laugh and a joke and a cold beer.
And a beer at the end of the day.
There are a few hassles. To keep the vintage machinery in good running order, McCartan is always on the lookout for replacement parts.
Today you've got to keep buying, every time you see a binder, so you go and buy it, so you've got spares. I've got a heap of them.
He doesn't know what will happen when he retires, admitting the younger generation of farmers prefer newer modern machinery, meaning interest in the old tried and true tools is likely to fade. In Rolleston, the South today.
Popping into an art gallery to buy some gift cards resulted in one Dunedin customer buying the entire business over Christmas. Bex Wilson will become the new owner of Dunedin's Quadrant Gallery and says the previous owners have given her a gift.
Turning off the lights of his Dunedin Art Gallery one last time, artist Dave McLeod started the Quadrant Gallery in Bracken Court in 2007, after the Moray Place building was refurbished following a devastating fire 2 years earlier. From that site he's been selling his own creations as well as those from many other artists. But after 14 years of running the shop almost every day, he's taking a well-earned retirement, although is promising to continue supplying the gallery with his artworks.
I'll continue to make and supply the gallery. I've made an undertaking to works that I'll keep supplying because my work's been quite a big part of the gallery turnover. But I'm looking forward to new projects, developing new ideas and stepping back off the treadmill a little bit.
McLeod was looking for someone with time and passion to take over the business, and he's selling it to former customer Bex Wilson, who only learned it was for sale while buying some jewellery gift cards for family.
And when I came in to get the vouchers, he said to me, "Oh well, maybe you probably need to tell your nieces that they'll need to spend this by Christmas time." And I was like, "Well, why?" And he said, "Well, I'm thinking of retiring, and I'm going to, thinking about closing the gallery if we don't find anyone to buy it." And I was like, "Well, maybe you should show me the books, and I'll have a think about it."
Wilson has previously run a design store in Port Chalmers and is impressed with how McLeod and his wife Anne Jackman have run the Quadrant Gallery.
The gallery has such loyal customers, and people love coming in here or viewing things from the website and giving us a call. So I feel like David and Anne have really given me a gift.
Wilson says she's not planning to make any big changes for the first year while she gets to learn how the gallery runs. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The Otago Southland Regional Final of the FMG Young Farmer of the Year took place last weekend. The practical events were held at the Southern Field Days in Waimumu, with the local winners set to go to the grand final in July.
A hands-on approach to a rural career. Competitors were put through their paces over the weekend at the Otago Southland Regional Final of the FMG Young Farmer of the Year competition.
It's a fun day, and we'll get to see who's able to just put their head down and plough on and get a good result.
The event was limited to just 100 spectators due to the COVID red light setting. Chairman of the organising committee, Zach Thomas, says they had a lot of creative freedom around how the practical tests are run. The committee tried to choose activities which would test the practical skills of competitors as well as their people management skills.
So they're going to have be tested on a range of agribusiness, agriculture and just even general knowledge questions, just to see who has been studying and who knows what's going on in the world at the moment.
Mossburn Farm manager Alex Field won the regional final for a second time. He'll represent Otago and Southland at the National Grand Final in July, giving him 5 months to prepare. Following in Alex Field's tyre tracks was runner-up Isaac Johnston from West Otago and George Blythe from Clinton, South Otago. In Gore, the South Today.
Coming up next on Southern Newsweek, Dunedin's Emma Gilmore gets set to have her first drive for the McLaren racing team, and budding junior sportswomen get a taste of different sporting codes. Welcome back. Over the next 18 months, the pinnacle of women's sports is due to be celebrated around the world, with major tournaments in rugby, football and cricket. The ICC Women's Cricket World Cup has matches scheduled in Dunedin in the near future, and budding competitors across the three codes took part in skills sessions recently.
Getting ready for the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup, these pupils are learning cricket skills with Player and Development Officer Sophie Gray.
It's still really exciting to have the girls see that the World Cup is here with events like this and hopefully get more girls involved in cricket at a younger age.
Today's Fern Fever Day also had these St Hilda pupils learning football and rugby skills at the Logan Park grounds. Football South's Sarah Stephen says having a day which is just for aspiring female sports people helps the girls feel more confident.
Basically, the aim is to get them down to events like this where it's girls only. It's a safe environment where they feel comfortable to learn and grow confidence with, ball skills and just being in that environment, which is a lot more supportive than potentially a mixed environment sometimes. They've got extra support, small groups, lots of coaches.
Rugby was the third sport on offer. Otago Rugby Football Union Female Game Development Officer Eilish Doyle hopes this week's news of professionalism coming into the women's game can inspire some of these girls.
And it also now allows it to be a real aspirational. You can make money playing rugby now. It's a viable career for women now, which is outstanding. We've got more and more young girls that are interested in the game because rather than having to work full-time and try and play rugby, they get to, some awesome, amazing athletes get to play rugby full-time. That's their job now, and so for our young girls it can be a career for them.
Like with the other sports, Doyle says those taking part were learning basic ball handling skills and getting used to being in close proximity with other players. Proximity in sport is an issue, with the nation being at COVID red level 2. St Hilda's Year 7 and 8 Dean, Carla Joint, says the pupils are in the junior school's bubble, but says it's nice to actually see the girls of the junior school outside and unmasked in a safe environment.
It's quite exciting to see the girls' faces because we've had them covered from the nose down, and actually been able to see the whole face and the facial expressions. I think today for the girls to get to know each other a lot more, because they're just in wee subgroups for lunchtime, to actually get to know each other a bit more, those facial expressions are key.
The ICC Women's Cricket World Cup is due to begin next month, with the Women's Rugby World Cup near the end of this year and the Women's Football World Cup in 2023. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Dunedin rally driver Emma Gilmore has returned to the UK to prepare with her new McLaren team ahead of this year's Extreme E Racing Series. The first event is due to be held in Saudi Arabia in late February, giving Gilmore time to prepare.
A home away from home. Dunedin rally ace Emma Gilmore has returned to her UK base ahead of the Extreme E Racing Series. As the first female driver signed to the legendary McLaren Motorsport team, she's looking forward to the season.
I can't believe that it's already here, the first event with McLaren, so I'm very excited to be heading to Saudi Arabia and to be getting the season started. Our testing pre-season went really well, so yeah, I think Tanner and I are really looking forward to finally getting things underway.
Back in Aotearoa, Gilmore was one of the first drivers to sign up for this year's Rally NZ season. But she's well aware of the shifting situation as COVID-19 continues to spread around the world, with different governments having different rules and restrictions.
It's a little bit tricky at the moment with the way the borders are, and I probably won't have time to be able to get back for some of the events in the New Zealand Rally Championship, but I am hoping that I will be there at the Otago Rally because it's my favourite, and also Rally of New Zealand, which is on later in the year.
However, she's enjoying her pre-season testing at McLaren Racing HQ. The 2022 Extreme E season revs up on February 19th at Neom in Saudi Arabia. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The Otago Volts named a couple of young guns in its side for a Plunket Shield cricket match against Auckland last week. Thorne Parkes got an opportunity in the middle order, while there was a familiar surname at the top of the order.
Getting ready for a double debut. North East Valley's Thorne Parkes training yesterday with 18-year-old University Grange opener Jacob Cumming ahead of their call-up to the Otago Volts. Jacob has a good cricketing pedigree. He's the son of Otago and Blackcap star Craig Cumming.
Obviously it's a pretty special occasion. Obviously it wasn't too long ago that I was here watching Dad play, so to get my own chance to go out and play for Otago, it's really special.
Jacob enjoys his role as an opening batsman, replacing recalled Blackcap Hamish Rutherford at the top of the order. He's very keen to add to the family's Otago legacy. Craig Cumming is Otago's all-time leading scorer in first-class cricket and has been one of Jacob's mentors.
Dad's there if I need it. He's there if I'm not quite feeling there technically or in other ways, but yeah, he's just been he's a big help. Yes, yeah.
Nerves too for Thorne Parkes, who hails from Gisborne but is in his fourth year studying at Otago University.
It's going to be a huge step up. I'm very excited, stoked for the opportunity, and just very thankful really.
The Volts coach impressed with both young men ahead of their first-class debut.
The two main things that you often look for in a player is the technique and temperament, and both players have sound techniques and very tight techniques and very compact game plans.
The four-day match between Otago Volts and Auckland Aces is set to continue at University Oval this weekend. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Despite the COVID Red Level 2 restrictions, Dunedin's Fringe Festival is still planning to go ahead next month. Festival organisers say they're taking all the necessary precautions in relation to the pandemic to ensure the city can enjoy some creative performances.
The shows will go on. Organisers of Dunedin's Fringe Festival are preparing to go ahead with this year's event, which is due to run for 10 days from mid-March. Maria Colombo is planning to stage a one-woman show during the festival, although admits putting on performances during the pandemic is a cause for concern.
Absolutely. So, last year we were able to put on a bunch of shows and were able to do Fringe without restrictions. So when we first heard there would be restrictions, it was quite nerve-wracking for artists. But I think the support from Fringe, Dunedin Fringe, and knowing that it will go ahead with safety things in place has been really helpful.
Comedian Te Reira, Andrew to his mum, cut his performance teeth at Otago University and is returning to Dunedin for an illustrated lecture called Intoxicana. Fringe Arts Trust co-chair Una McGurr believes Te Reira's show will be a highlight among a stripped-down program this year.
So we've worked really closely with our team, particularly around how we're setting up the venues, making sure we're meeting the numerical limit, ensuring that people are masked, we have vaccination passes coming in, the vaccine pass, and also working with audiences to keep them safe so that they are masked and seated, appropriately distanced, and our artists will be, of course, when they're performing, at certain times they'll be unmasked, but generally we're working very closely to those standards. We want to keep our community safe, we want to keep our artists safe, and we want to keep our audiences safe.
McGurr believes in the face of yet another year of disruptions, it's important the Fringe can offer support to smaller events with a lower risk profile to go ahead. It's also a valuable platform for artists to continue to share their work and make an income.
Yeah, Alan Ned Gray, who you may be familiar with from various musical forays of his, has joined up with a team of singers and musicians to sing sea shanties and share salty stories on the Port to Port ferry, which will be running back and forth throughout the day on Monday the 21st of March.
Another will be Ruth Carraway, former director of British TV shows Grange Hill and The Bill. She's working with a cast of people who've touched the prison system for a theatre piece called Been Through Enough. Despite the COVID Red Level 2 restrictions, festival organisers are preparing to go ahead from March 17th to the 27th. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. Nō reira, kia pai te pō, ka kite anō.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.